Hello, everyone. This is Brother Pedro, and today I have the honor to host Pastor Thomas Benge. I had the awesome opportunity to be his translator in a very great pastors conference in Puerto Plata, and he indeed has the gift of public speaking. My life was truly blessed, and the life of hundreds of leaders of the city of Puerto Plata. Welcome, Pastor Thomas.
I'm so glad to be here, Pastor Pedro. Thank you for having me on your show. It was an honor to meet you and work with you. It was one of the highlights of my life for sure.
Thank you so much. Thomas, I want to begin this podcast by asking you a couple of questions.
Okay.
The first question is, when did you realize that you needed a mentor in your life?
Ooh, that's a great question. You know, I don't remember the exact moment. I would definitely say it was much later in my life, but as I looked back in my life, I realized that there had been key people that had been in my life off and on throughout my life. And as I look back, knowing what I know about a mentor now, I realized that those people had been mentors in my life. But I would say probably in my 40s. I'm 52 now, so it was probably in my 40s where I truly realized and recognized just how significant a mentor in your life could be.
What do you think that leaders need today? What is the biggest necessity that you see in the leadership today?
Oh, that's another great question, Pastor Pedro. I don't know if it's an easy answer. I think it depends on where the leader is in their life. So much of what we need depends on where we are. Just trying to frame it in the context of what we're talking about today, I definitely think that no one gets there all on their own. So I think that it's very important for leaders to have other leaders who surround them, people who may be a little bit further up the road than they are. Um, Everybody, whether you're a leader, and I think this, Pastor Pedro, even even in the home, everybody is leading someone, whether we believe we are or not. Everybody is leading someone. So I think that everybody needs to understand um, the importance or the impact that they can have from a leadership standpoint. So to say, well, what does a leader need? Well, that depends on where they are. In business, they need some different things. In churches, they need some other things. So depending on where the leader is in their life, I think that that is going to inform them more closely about what sorts of things they may be missing in their leadership, to determine what steps they might take to rectify or fix those missing components.
This is so powerful. Today we have Pastor Thomas Benge, and he's a great speaker. He blessed the city of Puerto Plata, speaking to hundreds of pastors. And today we have the honor to have him here, and mainly to speak about the power of a mentor. So, Pastor Thomas, I'm going to leave you blessing the people with this theme, with this subject, the power of a mentor, and then I'll be sharing the link to other folks. Okay?
Okay. Um, in my own, excuse me, in my own personal life, where the true power of a mentor came to life for me was when I realized the difference between a coach and a mentor. I had spent a good part of my adult life in coaching. I spent a lot of time as an athletic trainer and a coach of high-end athletes. And for a long time, I believed that the pinnacle of, the transference of information or meaning rested solely in the power of a coach. So a lot of my life was really spent developing my craft as a coach. And I heard a coach say, and it was a mantra that I ran with for such a long time, and it was that a coach improves other people's performance. So, excuse me. So I had really spent a lot of my time developing the ability to take people from, say, A to B to C, or to wherever they wanted to go in their life. And I was listening to a coach and he posed this question. And the question was, what is a coach? Now, now mind you, when I first heard that, I was like, okay, a coach is a person who helps people in their athletic endeavors or in business or in life. And the person that he was talking to, and I believe it was on another podcast, he said, well, a coach is, a person who trains a person to do X, Y, Z. And the coach said something that kind of set me on my heels a little bit. He said, a coach is a conveyance. And I hope everybody understands what I mean by that word conveyance. A coach, he said, was a thing that actually carried you from one point to another. If you look up coach in a dictionary, it would probably talk about a buggy or something along those lines. So he said that a coach was a conveyance. It was a thing. It carried you from point A to B. That was jarring to me initially because, I had spent so much of my time developing my craft and really making sure that I could help people's performance improve. And again, specifically, I was working with athletes. I worked with our nation's law enforcement and military. So in all of those endeavors, everything about a coach to me was, the person who could analyze and dissect and then help people get better at whatever it was they were doing. So when he says that a coach is a thing, I was shocked, but the conversation drew me in. And then he went on to say this. He said, in contrast, a mentor is a who. And I thought about that. He said, a mentor is a who. If we study the origins of that very word, the mentor, it's actually a person. I don't know how many of the listeners out there are familiar with the story of Homer's Iliad. It chronicles the history of, or the story of, the Trojan War. The king of Ithaca, his name was Odysseus. And Odysseus had a son, and his son's name was Telemachus. And Odysseus spent a large part of his adult life at war. So he would be gone for years at a time. And Odysseus had a trusted advisor who he would leave his son Telemachus with to teach him, things about culture and education and war and what it meant to be a man and a son and, a contributing person in society. Well, Telemachus is the person that Odysseus left Telemachus with. His name was Mentor. So when you start to put it all together, mentor, a mentor is a person. It is always a who. So as I really started to embrace that, I started to look back at my life. And one of the questions that Pastor Pedro asked me early in the podcast as we first came on was when did I realize that I needed a mentor? And young in my life, I didn't really understand the difference between a coach and a mentor. I had coaches. I played sports growing up, but as I started to frame it from this place of a mentor is a who, a coach can be a who, um, but in its truest form, it's a conveyance. It carries you from one place to the next. I really started thinking about all of the people in my life that walked with me through life, people in my life who would have been like mentor was to Telemachus, people who would have come into my life at really crucial times in my life where I needed to develop those personal things, not just the hardware. I would say, when I played basketball, not just people who could show me how to shoot a jump shot, but someone who could teach me to think about life beyond the basketball court. So I had a great person in my life, young in my life, as I start to think back on people. I had a great person in my life who happened to be my basketball coach. But I remember he, outside of my maternal grandmother, he was the first person in my life that opened up the possibilities for me that I could do more and be more than what my life might have suggested was available to me. So he was the person that first spoke identity to me. He was the person that said, you are somebody that has greatness in you. You can do more. You can go places that maybe your family before you has never gone. So when I look back, he was a mentor to me. He was somebody who walked with me in life. He was somebody that I could talk to. He was somebody that I could ask questions of. He was somebody who was up the road a little bit further than I was. I had a chance this past summer to see him, and I hadn't seen him for 30 years. And it was almost like no time had passed in our life. So he was a mentor. I had a coach in college who ended up becoming one of my best friends. And he was the first person that came along and really taught me about greater responsibility. The team looked up to me. I was somebody who he said, Tom, the team is only going to go as far as you go. And he was somebody who, even after I graduated from college, we became best friends and we did life together. So the fact that he was in my life was really powerful. Probably about 5 years ago now, I met a gentleman. He's 30 years older than me, and he has probably been the most influential person in my life. And our story is really interesting. He went to our church. He has a PhD in psychology, soft spoken, the sweetest man in the world. And I remember going to him, and I guess now that I think about it, he was probably the first person that I realized I wanted to have this man in my life to walk with me. And I remember asking him to if he would consider being my mentor. And he prayed about it and he thought about it for about a week. And then he finally called me and he said yes. And he and I had breakfast every Thursday for 18 months. So think about a year and a half. he and I had a standing date, if you will, where we shared a meal, and this man just walked with me through life. And I would say the man that I am today is probably directly related to his grooming in my life. Him uh, really answering some of the unanswered questions in my life. Why was I struggling with things? How did I think about things differently? And the power that he had in my life is absolutely astonishing. And I wouldn't have had that probably had he not been a who, if that makes any sense to you. So the fact that he was someone that I could call, he was someone who was invested in my success, not just mechanically, not just that I was a good preacher, but he cared about who I was becoming as a person. So he was probably the person that in my mind has been the most influential. I also have had the fortune of having mentors whose that while they weren't part of my life for a lot of my life, they were involved in my life from afar. So through books, through mediums like this podcast, listening to them on tapes. Way back in the day, we had tapes. So listening to them on tapes and DVDs. One such person, as you know, Pastor Pedro, who has been a great influence in my life, it has been Les Brown. I grew up listening to Les Brown. I listened to him for about 20 years. And several years back, I had the opportunity to attend a seminar that he was doing in our town. A friend arranged it. It was free for me. It was just one of the most amazing times of my life. And I got a chance to meet Mr. Brown in person. And I remember meeting him, and I want to speak to power. This is truly going to speak to power. When I went to meet him, he was dealing with some health issues, and people were waiting in line to visit with him. And he was seated in a chair, and he was talking to everybody. And I waited, and then I got an opportunity to walk up to him on the stage. And when I walked up to him, he looked up at me, and he got out of his chair. And I told him, I said, "Mr. Brown, you don't have to stand for me." And Mr. Brown said to me, he says, "I always stand in the presence of greatness." And that seed, what he planted that day, has been something that has been growing in me. So I think the power of a mentor's power comes to life in times sometimes when you don't believe that you have what it takes, but you remember the voices, you remember the lessons, you remember the time spent with people who invested in you, and you now have this reservoir of experience to draw from that can truly carry you in and through life. So when I think about a mentor, the thing that always resonates with me is a mentor is always a who, and they are people that show you and walk with you in some way or form through the intricacies of life and teach you how to navigate that.
It is so powerful, and it calls to my attention the time that you spent with your mentor every week having breakfast together,
Yeah,
because a genuine mentor will spend time with his protege,
absolutely.
because
Uh,
you have the opportunity to hear him, and he has the opportunity to hear you.
oh, and Dr. Day, his name is Dr. Day. He is to this day still one of my closest friends. I still regard him as a mentor. Just he is someone that has access to my life. I have access to his life, just like you were speaking, Pastor Pedro. Our lives are now connected, and so it's powerful.
I have a mentor in the area of missions.
Mm-hmm.
He has been mentoring me for more than 2 decades.
Wow.
I met him as a translator. He came to Dominican Republic with Mercy Ship. This ship goes globally to
Yes.
bring support, medical outreach, and to help different community. And he was the director of a program from Mercy Ship named Gateway.
Yeah.
They would come to different neighborhoods to help the community leaders to transform the community.
Yeah.
So he always taught me about the importance of a mentor. But I heard Pastor Rick Warren saying that he has a mentor in many areas of his life. He said, "I have a mentor on my program of eating, my nutrition. I have a mentor on my sermons," and he mentions a whole lot different areas that I didn't imagine that you could have a mentor. But there's a big challenge, Pastor Thomas. The challenge is, how do I find the right mentor for me?
Oh
Because
man.
many times you guys are so busy. You know, sometimes you need a mentor, but the mentor that you need might be busy. So, what are your advices for us, so that we could find the right mentor? Because there could be somebody saying, "I've been trying to find a mentor, I've been texting, I've been calling, and it seems like nobody has time."
That is a great question and a tough one to answer. I know in my case, Dr. Day specifically, he was someone that I had some peripheral interactions with. He was someone who was a member of our congregation. He was someone that I saw at least weekly, and I got an opportunity to watch him. I got an opportunity to watch how he engaged with people. I got an opportunity to watch how he communicated, how he dealt with complex challenges. In the opportunities that I had where I could engage him, I asked a lot of questions. I asked him questions, and I listened to how he proceeded to give me answers. And so when I ran up against some things in my life where I went, you know what, I can't navigate this by myself. So I'm going to look for somebody maybe to come alongside of me and help me and show me how to do that. He was one of the first people that popped into my mind. So I think some of it, different than what I would call a mentorship with Mr. Brown, because his mentorship was from afar. He mentored me through books and tapes and things of that nature. So um, that might be how a lot of people start. You might start that way. There might be somebody local to you who preaches and teaches, and you're listening to them and they say things that resonate with you, and then you might just say, hey, call them on the phone if you have access to them that way, and say, can I take you out, and I would love to buy an hour of your time over a meal, and I just want to ask you some questions and see if they are a right fit for your life. Because as much as we may need mentors, it's equally important to find the right mentor, because the wrong mentor can put you behind the timeline in the timeline a little bit, where the next mentor is really going to have a lot of work. I think the thing that you're speaking to is from a mentor side. I think as a mentor, I currently mentor 2 men right now in my life. And when I agreed to it, I really had to sit down with my wife and look at our life and say, can I devote the time necessary to do this? And if I couldn't, if I wouldn't have been able to do that, I would have simply told them, I appreciate you considering me. I will help you when and where I can. But mentorship to me really involves being in your life. And if I can't be in your life, then I don't want to waste your time or take up time. So I think looking for a mentor, one, find somebody, narrow it down, take them out, ask them questions, be inquisitive. Is this the right person for me? And then they get to see some things about you as well. They get to say, hey, is this someone that I want to invest in? Because I think even as a mentor, you learn a lot from those people that you spend time with. Dr. Day will tell me that there are things that I say or do that he goes, wow, that really taught me something. So I think that's important. So you may have to beat the trees a little bit to find people. And then as a mentor, really make sure that you can uphold your side of the deal. Make sure that you have the time and the space available to really give to people the way that you need to.
I always think a mentor has to be a qualified person, and I don't mean he has to be a celebrity. I don't mean he has to be successful, but I think it has to be a person that was or he is in the place that you want to be.
I would agree with you 100%, Pastor Pedro. And that goes to, asking some questions. Is this the person that can help me get where I want to go or out of what I don't want to be in anymore? And that's very important. So you're right. Qualifications matter.
And what are some of the what are some of the characteristics that you look into a man to say he could be my mentor?
Oh, for me, the men that have been in my life that I look back either in my past and I've identified them as mentors, or ones that are in my life now. First, they're men who are genuine and authentic. They're real. They don't hide their issues. They don't pretend that there's some place that they're not. They're very candid and open about their lives. They are men that can be trusted. A mentor for me, because I'm investing my life, or I'm allowing them access to my life, I would ask, is this a person that I would leave with my wife? That I'm looking for that, in a mentor. I'm looking for a person that can give me the hard truth in love. Is this a person that when they identified those spots in my life that have got me in a place where I'm not maximized or as vibrant in my life as I can be, are these the people that can cut away, all of the fluff and say, hey, Thomas, here's the problem. Here's the issue. So I'm looking for men who are authentic and genuine, men that I can trust, men that will call it just the way it is. And I think that those are three. And then to speak to your point, they're men who are where I want to be. You met one of my mentors in the Dominican, Pastor Jim. He's growing fastly to be a mentor to me in my life. And he's a man that embodies all of those characteristics.
So today in an era where people have everything available through the sources of internet, this is an era that people are very independent. They think they don't need nobody. Everybody has his own way of doing things. I was saying to a pastor, this is the worst time to be a preacher or to be a minister of God. And he said, why? I said, because everybody think they know everything. People think they know everything, and everybody has something to say. So how important it is, Pastor Thomas, how important it is to be silent in front of your mentor.
Well, great. And you touched on something that I just don't want to leave it behind. I would say this to your audience. It's important. You can't know yourself by yourself. You can't know yourself by yourself. I can't see the blind spots in my life, but my mentor can. The people that I trust, that I surround myself with. I have a council of people that are significant to my life. So anybody that thinks that they can make it out there on their own, I think they're setting themselves up for potentially some difficulty ahead. So I wanted to speak to that first, Pastor Pedro. I would say that if I have taken the time to seek out someone because they are where I want to be, and they have agreed that they are willing to be a part of my life, then the most honoring thing that I can do with respect to them is listen, be a great listener, and ask questions. I think those are the two things. If you are in the position of being mentored, you should be a great question asker and a great listener. When you're the one that is giving all of the information and advice, then you're probably not receiving as much. So when I'm with the people in my life that I hold in that position, I write things down. I always have something to write with. When I'm with them, I write things down. I'm like, oh my goodness, I got to write that down because I want to remember it. I want to retain it. So I think listening is absolutely, it's a requirement. And if I'm going to mentor someone, one of the things that will disqualify them from my time is if they're people who don't listen.
Yes, having a mentor gives you the ability to grow. But if you don't make silence and if you don't make questions, growth is impossible.
It's going to be harder for sure.
It's gonna be harder. You need to ask questions, and when the mentor is answering the questions, you need the ability to hear and to write down things. Pastor Thomas, I'm very happy that you took the time to be with us. This is the Dominican Preacher TV.
I
This is
love it.
yeah, this is our English social media platform. We're trying to make it grow and receive a big hug. And I hope to see you soon back in Puerto Plata.
I'm
Yes.
coming. I'm coming back to the Dominican, and I will hablo español when I come.
Yes, Mike Silva. The first time that I served Mike Silva, he spoke very, very little Spanish.
Wow.
And I was amazed that he could speak the whole conference, his whole conference in total Spanish.
He's amazing.
That was that was amazing. Yeah, I said,
Yeah,
wow.
I didn't realize that either. And his wife told me the same thing, and I was blown away. I thought that he grew up with it as a language because he just, spoke it so well. So that's my goal. He's my goal to be able to come back to the Dominican and just speak with the people in the language. It's really important to me. So
Yes, that gives you a whole different experience when you are able to speak the local tongue, when you're able to speak the language of that community, of that country, is an opportunity to connect. And that's one of the reasons that I'm connecting with you, because I'm able to speak your language, not
yes, sir.
as not as good as yourself. I think you have a few master's degree in different careers, and I only have lower resumes and courses in
You
my life. So
you were not lower in any way, Pastor Pedro. I loved having you as an interpreter. You had the same energy, you had the same vibe, and there was in my heart there was no disconnection from English to Spanish through you to the people. It was great. So don't minimize yourself. You're doing good work, and thank
thank
you.
you, thank you. I enjoyed translating to you,
Thank you.
because so few, very few missionaries, when they come here, very few have the ability to speak in public, and that's a gift you have.
Thank you.
So
Thank you.
for me, as a public speaker, to be a translator of a public speaker like you, it made me feel awesome, because I know I'm serving somebody that knows what he's doing, and that loves that he's doing. So if you have a final word to the people, one of the magic of the internet is that this teaching stays here in the channel, and people that we shared this chat with will come and see, and other people will see it. So what are the final message
Oh,
that you want to give to the people, related to mentorship or to any area that you think is a need?
I would say this, Pastor Pedro, and I hope it translates the way that I intended. Each one teach one. Each one teach one. There is power in you having a mentor, and it should at some point manifest itself in your life in such a way that you also become a mentor. And I think that is truly the power in the whole mentor mentee relationship. So each one teach one, and that would be what I would leave with your people.
Wow, amazing. Each one teach
Teach
one.
one. Yep.
uh, Thank you, Pastor Thomas. I hope to have you back. And by the time I have you back, the community will be bigger. So thank you so much.
Thank
God
you.
bless you. God bless you for the opportunity, and see you soon.
God bless you. Thank you, sir. Bye.